Hello, long time no see. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Liselle Sambury. I'm a traditionally published author, and this is the first writing vlog of the new year. I am sorry that I sound like this. I have a sort of flu. It's not COVID. There have been tests. It's not that. It's just like a regular run-of-the-mill flu, so that's why my voice sounds like that, and I apologize. Hopefully it will improve throughout the week. But during this writing vlog, I'm going to be working on my second round of developmental edits for Butcherbirds, which is my 2023 standalone YA that's coming out from Simon & Schuster / Margaret K. McElderry. It's about a 17-year-old reluctant medium who she and her mom inherit a mansion in Northern Ontario. And it is also about, from a second perspective, a budding investigative journalist who's trying to find out what happened to the girl in the first POV. So it's a dual POV, dual timeline sort of story involving, haunted houses and mediums and generational trauma and all sorts of things, and set in the Northern Ontario area, which I now live. So that's what that is all about. And so I actually got these notes back from my editor in mid-December, but I had already resolved by then that I wasn't gonna do work in December, like writing work, and I still ended up having to do writing work. More on that in a second. But anyway, so I decided I wasn't gonna do that. So I was like, I just wanna get this done in the first week of January. And to not be completely chaotic, I went through all of my editor's notes, all the inline notes in the manuscript, and all of her general editorial notes, just to make sure that it was something that I could do in a week. Because the last thing I wanted to do was to be like, I'm just gonna do these edits the first week of January, and then go in and be like, holy shit, no, I need way more time than that. So I went through all of the edits. I planned all of my edits, so I meticulously went through where I was going to make all of those changes, and so I just have to go and do that. I'm working on 6 chapters a day. So far I've done today's work day. It's been very doable. It's been very good. They are quite small changes, so I'm not in danger and things have worked out. I also got notes back, so I was trying to find someone local to the area that I could get to read the book, just kind of I guess an authenticity read to point out if I messed anything up, because I'm not local to this area and neither is the character, but still there are other characters that talk about certain things, and I wanted to make sure all of that was realistic. And they're quite a busy person, so I'm very thankful to them for reading it, because my boyfriend is not really a reader, and so it was better to kind of find someone who was a reader and interested in reading to do that for me. And so I got some notes back from them as well, which were super helpful because there were some things I was referring to them in a way that a local person wouldn't refer to it. And the book takes place, so I have it set, there's a town, which is where I live, and I have it actually set in a cottaging area, and it's actually an hour away from the town. And I was referring to it all by the town name because technically it's part of the town's area, the scope of area. And one of the comments that she had made was I wouldn't call this place by the town name, I would call it by the cottage sort of area name. And so that was really helpful. And things like that. So I'm really happy I have someone reading for authenticity, but it is going to be a bit of a race to the finish, because we're actually doing edits much faster, because just the way things have gone, it seems like it's going to have a much earlier release date. And so I'm probably going to be doing both my second developmental edits and my line edits for Butcherbirds all in January, so that we can have it sent to copy edits for February. So it's going to be a quicker turnover, which is fine, because I wrote this book way ahead of time. It wasn't I wrote this on proposal or anything, and so I had a lot prepared, and they're quite doable changes for me. So that's what's going on there. And oh, what else I had to do in December as like a catch up, because we lost that writing vlog from me with my whole debacle with my external hard drive just like breaking. So as a little bit of a catch up from last year, so the Newlyweds, which is my adult horror thriller that I've been working on, that is now with my agent, and so my agent is working on edits for that. And then what also happened is my 2024 novel, which I'm proposing to be Bear Hunt, which is basically a book about a wealthy Toronto family who run a needs-based school, and then murders start happening in the school, and her brother is implicated, the main character's brother is implicated. And so that story, that proposal, I wasn't planning to work on to fix. I have to do some revisions on it. I wasn't planning to do those revisions until the new year. But then my editor was like, we actually kind of want to square that book away in January and like know what is going to be the 2024 book by January. So then in December, I did have to end up doing that edit really quick during that month. So that was like the writing work that I did have to do, which is why I was even more like, I don't want to do any more during this month. It's supposed to be my month off. So that's how that ended up working out. But yeah, generally feeling good about things. It's going to be a very busy year for me. Yes, there are secrets. There are secrets that I cannot talk about, but yeah, it's gonna be a very busy year for me. So yeah, this week I just gotta focus on things week by week. And so this week the focus is going to be on my Butcherbirds edits. Oh my god, sorry, the sickness. The Butcherbirds edits. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Melody, I just need to find my way. So when I fall behind, just give me one more day to regret the word I could never say. I'm drowning with the past, ocean of yesterday. Stuck in the night with no end, but I'll be alright. Come morning, don't take me now.
Good morning. So I'm here up at, it's like almost 10. I had a small emotional breakdown in the morning. Mostly hormonal based, but I just, an unexpected side quest, if you will, of having a foreign deal is that, in order to not be charged taxes in their country by my foreign publisher, they want proof that I'm Canadian and I pay taxes in Canada, but they want proof via a form that it seems like I can only get by either faxing, which like I don't have a fax machine, or by calling. And my government started doing this cute little thing where instead of putting you on hold, they say, our queue is full, sorry, and they hang up on you. So you have to just like repetitively call back. And it's not easy to do it because they make you answer like 5 minutes worth of questions and prompts. I guess because they're trying to weed out people. So that was terrible. And again, because I'm hormonal, I just fully cried because it was so frustrating. So that was my morning. And the level of emotional turmoil has now made me unable to write. Like I can't, like in this mood, there's no way I can just go and write. So I figured I'd do a little update. I'm probably not going to write. I think I'll start writing after lunch. The good thing about doing these edits is they have, in fact, been very, very quick to do, just like I thought they would be. What was I going to say? Oh, so like the most time I had to take, I think, was like doing the authenticity edits of like some of the stuff about the setting that I needed to fix from my reader who was, raised here. But my actual things that I had to fix inline are very, very small things that I've pinpointed very specifically where those changes need to be done. So it's not actually taking me that long. So I feel fine to start at 1:00 today and to do other things this morning to recover from the emotion of the morning. So I'm gonna plan that out for the day. But yeah, the story is going well. I'm trying to think of something specific that I worked on. Oh, so because the title has changed now, I'll give you a hint and I will say it is a plant-related title for a character that, is really obsessed with plants. So I think that's quite sneaky. It's like, but yeah, so basically that's kind of the title. And so because the title used to be Butcherbirds, there are obviously a lot of references to the Butcherbirds in it, but now the title has changed to this more plant-based title. One of the comments that my editor had was like, could we kind of beef up some of those references? So that's something I did yesterday, it's kind of those references, like those plant references, I kind of went in and like added a little bit more, zhuzhed it up, if you will. The main character has this story that she tells about the first plant that she ever got, that her mom gives her, and she's telling the story of like learning to take care of plants and like what that meant to her as a child and what that means to her now as she's a teenager, and like how much of an impact that has on her, and part of the reason why it's so important for her to take care of plants and to feel like that is, something that's really important to her life. So she's talking about that. But I really like that scene because it's also layered in a certain way. I think it also shows her character flaws in the ways in which this kind of obsession about plants has kind of derailed her in some other ways. And also, like, so much of this book is about the relationship between her and her mother. And there's also like a certain subtext about her mother giving her this specific plant, and especially kind of I've made it so that even if you're not a plant person, you can like understand like the feeling of like her mom getting her that specific plant, but I think also if you're a plant person, you'll kind of be like, you'll also, I guess, maybe faster get the subtext of like her giving her that specific plant. So yeah, that was really fun for me to write. I think my favorite bits of this book are the moments that are very like subtexty and like nuanced and they're saying bigger things about the relationships between the characters without actually point blank saying it, which is the balance of this book, because I feel like because of the world building and how I put the world together, in some ways, through the help of my editor, I've had to be more overt about like how the world works so that people aren't getting so distracted and bogged down by like, but like, how does this psychic guy do his thing? And like, oh, but how does her ability work? And like, what's going on with the house and what's happening, what happened in the past that affected the house now, and all those things. Like, you don't want readers to get bogged down with like thinking so hard about all those plot things when really this book is about the character things. And so it's definitely a balance between like a more overt sort of world building and then a more subtexty, nuanced character bits. So I really like that about the book. And yeah, so that's what I did yesterday. And today, in the afternoon, I will go about actually doing some writing once I'll be less emotional, potentially, hopefully, and things will go better.
I'm so damn close to learning how I need your ghost. Melody, I just need to stay awake, but you're obsessed with time. No clue what's at stake. In the final round of a lifelong game, so I step out of bounds. I don't want things to change.
Things have gotten so much better since we last spoke. If you'll remember, on Wednesday I was having a small breakdown from having to do red tape things, and things really improved after. On that Wednesday I actually didn't do any work at all because I got to a point where I was like, the hormones were too much and I was like, I cannot do anything. So I didn't do that, and I read and I watched the entire Hawkeye series, which I really, really liked. Yelena is my favorite. I absolutely love her. So anyway, that's what I did on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I had like a full re-up. I got up super early so I could do my red tape thing, and I was successful in doing it. And while I was on hold for an hour, despite calling the minute they opened, I worked on my edits for Butcherbirds. I almost said the new title. The pains of publishing secrets. Anyway, so I was working on that, and by the time I got off hold, I had already done all of Wednesday's work that I missed doing on Wednesday. And so on Thursday, I just decided I would also do my Thursday work, and then I would be completely caught up. And so I also did that, and that was great. I was like, oh, so productive. And I was still basically done by 12 or 11:30 or something like that. As I said, these aren't super big edits. And then I had 2 magnificent brainwaves. So one problem that I've had the entire process of doing this book is that the male lead, Kingsley, also called King. I know some people will think that is really cheesy, but whatever, I like it and I'm gonna keep it. Yes, he's a black boy, and yes, his name is King. I'm fine with it. So he's psychic, and so he has these abilities. And I've had to explain again how he has these abilities and how it works and all the rules and all of these things. And it's been a very more complicated bit of world building than I thought it was going to be, because every time I do edits with my agent or my editor, they have all these questions about how his ability works. And so it came up again in this edit, of course. And I was like, oh my god. And my editor had a suggestion, which I thought was a good suggestion, because essentially this whole thing is that this ability that he has was passed down from one family member, and it's something to do with the house. And so basically I didn't have a clear way of where this ability came from and how she got it and how she passed it down and all of that. And so my editor's suggestion was well, maybe she just kind of passed it down. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And I was being really lazy about it because I was so tired of trying to make this work. And then I had this brainwave, and I found a way to I had this brainwave partially because I was really unsatisfied with how I had chosen to solve that and incorporate my editor's suggestion. I was really like, I did feel very much like I did it in a lazy way, which I did. And I didn't like it. It was making me feel really unsatisfied and annoyed. And I was like, I have to figure out how to do this better. I just have to. And I had this thought of a way to connect that ability to the house and to connect it to this theme I have going on about plants and ecosystems and things like that. And it just all came together and I was so happy about it. I was like, this is it. This is the fix. This fits with the rest of the story. This fits with the rest of the themes. This fits with what I'm talking about, and this makes sense. And it just pulled his ability together into the story really nicely, I think. I guess we'll see what my editor thinks. And so that made me really happy. And then while I was on the topic of like thinking about the ecosystem of the house and things like that, I also started thinking about another thing that happens in the house, and I kind of discovered a plot hole, and I was able to fix the plot hole by like weaving it into the world building. It just like, it worked out really well. Like, I think something that's like a big thing in this book is there's a lot of plant imagery. There's a lot of discussions about plants and growing and ecosystems and that sort of thing, and like life and the circle of life and death, and like there's so much of that stuff. I'm making it sound like so deep, but like it's just like I find that really interesting. I find that really, really interesting to talk about, and especially, you know, in the case of a girl who sees dead people and like that, how that fits into that cycle. And I just like really had two really good brainwaves about how to do that and how to fit that into the themes of the book I already had. Because I think my struggle with this book is that I wrote so much of it based on just like vibes and like not super explaining things because I didn't want to, because I wanted certain things to be mysterious. And then I kind of had this struggle because there were so many questions that my agent and my editor had that I then had to answer things, and I had to build up the world in that way. And I was struggling between building up the world and explaining things so that readers aren't distracted by wondering, but what about this? What about this? And then like being able to weave in all the emotional and thematic and vibes thing that I really love about the story. And I feel like in this edit, in like I've figured out a way to blend those together in a really satisfying like method. Like I'm really happy about it and it feels cohesive. And also, oh, another thing I almost forgot, this is getting to be such a long update, but I'm really excited about this. And I usually I do want to share like more details about things that are going into the book, and I like this because these are very specific details without spoilers. And so I also rewrote a scene. So I had a scene in which the character has a bit of a flashback. And so the flashback was to kind of demonstrate a thing between her and her mom. And the actual action of it was like kind of with a character that was unrelated. And then because my editor wanted to know more about the backstory of a certain trauma that's happened to the character, essentially I was like, okay, I was just gonna like, basically, again, such a lazy fix. I was just gonna throw in a little thing at the end that was like, and then she confronted this thing in a separate situation that was like this situation in this scene, but not exactly the same. And I was just like, why would I have two scenes for that? Like, why would I? Basically, I was like, I had a scene of her doing a similar thing with an unrelated character, and then I said, and then she does the same thing with this character that's very related to her life. And I was like, why wouldn't I just redo the scene, take out the unrelated character, and put in the character that's very much related to her life and make the scene about that? And that's what I did, and it's so much better. It's so much better. It's so good. And it's like also like very creepy and like also like traumatic, which I've enjoyed about this book, you know, doing things like that. And so it just like, it worked out so much better. And I'm really happy that I rewrote that scene. It did, unfortunately, end up making the book longer. The book is ever growing like a plant. So theme related. But yeah, I also did that. So I did that on Thursday. I rewrote that scene, and then today I read back over the scene just to make sure everything was fine, and I finished up my edits and I sent them to my editor. And that second round of developmental edits are done. And next up we'll be doing line edits, which will be good because I know some things were like a little bit messy, and so when I do the line edit, I'll do like a very intense read through and things will become very, very sharp very, very quickly. So I'm happy about that. But overall, I'm really, really pleased with this edit. I'm really pleased with the brainwaves I had. I think it's made the story a lot tighter. It's made the themes a lot tighter. And I think it's gonna come together in a much better book, and I remain very in love with and very proud of this book, though again I'm not excited about reading it again. But I'm very, very happy with this book. I really feel like I stretched my craft muscles with this one, and yeah, I'm excited to share it eventually one day with the new title, which I avoided saying accidentally. That will be revealed at some point. So anyway, now that this whole update is already 10 minutes, I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap up. So yeah, I'll see you in another writing vlog down the line. I don't know what I'll be working on then, but it'll be another writing vlog. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.